Oh, yes. So let's go ahead and talk to Carl in California. Go ahead.
Alex.
Hi.
I want to thank you for paying for my phone call.
You bet. So you're talking to the Hamburglar right now. Go ahead.
Yes. God bless you, Max. Appreciate all your work. I don't have any particular questions. I had a couple of things for Alex, but I have actually 100 things for Alex to talk to.
Well, sure, that's fine. Keiser can comment on them. Go ahead, sir.
Well, it's about something that's going on locally here in California. Last Sunday, of course, it was the 9/11 commemoration, that disgusting event. There was a radio show that welcomed our phone calls to call in and say, how did it affect you? Where were you then and where are you now? And how are the dynamics between the time that you experienced that event and how has it changed you? I called in to try to say, had my chance. This is a Clear Channel station, of course. And I tried to get in, and they would not let me on the air.
Okay.
because I was going to tell them the truth.
Yeah, so basically they welcome your comments but then screen your calls. No, for most of these stations, if you're a 9/11 truther, unless it's George Norrie or somebody who is somebody who honors the First Amendment, you're not going to get on air. You've got to basically, I don't like to lie ever. And so I will basically just spin it. And I'll say, yeah, I want to talk about this. And then I'll say what I was going to say. Because when I'm driving around or whatever, I call into talk radio, national, local, all the time. I will say what I said I was going to say and then go into something else. And so that's basically what you have to do. They're definitely trying. I can see screening calls to not have people on with bad phones or people that are incoherent. We don't do that and sometimes get the incoherent calls because I want to be a pure show. But I call in to shows in San Antonio and Austin, and I don't call in a lot, maybe every 6 months to, each one of the 5 or 6 talk stations. Maybe once a week I call into one of them, but there's quite a few, so maybe every few months I call into one of them. And they'll go, no way, Alex, you're not coming on. And I don't even plug myself when I get on these radio shows. I just
Is this
cut.
question for me? I mean, you talk all the whole show, man. I mean, what about me? I'm sitting here on hold, and you're blabbing on about some story nobody cares about. Why can't I answer the question?
Okay, Hamburglar, he asked me a question, but go ahead.
He said it didn't matter what the question was. I could answer it.
Well, then I missed what he was saying. Was your question for me, sir, or for Max?
Well, I called in a couple of hours ago, so I've been sitting on. And
he said he wanted to talk to me, burglar.
I'm sorry. I take that back.
Okay.
Well, God bless you, Max. Anyway, God bless
hold
you.
on. Put him back on screen. We've got him joining us via Skype right now. Okay, Max, you're on screen. But no, Max, comment on that, how they try to shape the media and the talking points.
Well, it's very interesting. I just saw Democracy Now!, which is a show which usually I don't think your listeners would necessarily be listening to Amy Goodman and Democracy Now!, but tonight she had Bob Graham on, who former governor of Florida, who now wants to reopen the 9/11 investigation and investigate what's all the activity with the Saudi and the Saudi government. I mean, this is, everyone's been bad-mouthing the so-called truthers for years, but now it looks like they really are going to reopen this case and really dig down into the participation of the Saudi government and all the Saudi nationals who were in the U.S. who were helping the 15 out of the 19 hijackers who were part of that event, aiding them leading up to the event. And now it's come out that weeks before the event, there were a lot of noise being reported to the FBI and the CIA and all these other agencies about a lot of suspicious activity that anybody with half a brain would have seen was adding up to something.
Well, yeah, even Richard Clark now has talked about this, and the makers of Press for Truth, it was a really good documentary. They're making a new one and interviewed Richard Clark. They discovered the CIA agents that were ordering the stand down, and they sent a letter to the CIA saying, please respond. And they said, we're going to arrest your butt. How's that sound? We'll respond by doing that. So a lot of people 10 years later are getting close. That's why they have a special NSA office, according to several of our sources. And later this got leaked and was confirmed, at least it's going on partially, that tracks government whistleblowers like Sybil Edmonds and people they know. And so they're getting very close to this coming out, Max.
Yeah, I just think on the the mainstream media, which has put a stonewall. And to what the caller's point is that it's been a topic that is verboten. You can't even speak about it at all. But I think you've got now this, even like democracynow.org or Bob Graham and these folks, which can really align more with the mainstream, are starting to make this a mainstream topic. And so that, I think, is really an interesting development in the history of this.
It certainly is. Okay, thank you so much, Carl. Let's go ahead and talk to Scott in Mass. Scott, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hello, Mr. Jones and Mr. Keiser. How are you?
It's Mr. Burglar. He's fine.
I'd like to discuss with you, we have 9/11 that happened, the commemoration for that. We're in a depression, not a recession. Millions of people are unemployed. You've got a Federal Reserve out of control and Goldman Sachs and Bear Stearns. My point is this, is that all the points that you're making is spelled out clearly in the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, that the Jews control Wall Street. The New World Order is a Jewish conspiracy. Let me read you protocol number 5 in the protocols of the learned elders of Zion. A little sentence here. It says, in place of the rulers of today, we shall set up a bogey which will be called the super government administration. Its hands will reach out in all directions like nippers, and its organization will be of such colossal dimensions that it cannot fail to subdue all the nations of the world. My point is this, and I have a question for both of you gentlemen. Everything you're discussing, the New World Order, is spelled out in the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, which, by the way, is not a forgery, as the Jews claim. It is an authentic document that supports Jewish world domination.
Okay, well, I've read it, and it reads like a comic book. There have been lots of governments that use centralized coteries and behind-the-throne super systems and all of that. And from what I've gotten, it was the Russian czars put that out to be able to persecute groups. I have no doubt that there aren't political Jewish mafia out there wanting to take stuff over, because that's what groups do. But, some document, I can't prove either way or the other. I'm just trying to expose government corruption and not get into names and races and religions. I mean, the Soviets tried to take over. The Communist Chinese have. Pol Pot. I mean, this is what every group, Julius Caesar was doing things like that. I don't think he was Jewish. So, that's my point is the humans tend to act the same throughout history. And I get people calling in, always getting mad at me saying, I've got to say it's the Masons, or I got to say it's the Jews, or I got to say it's the Catholics, or I got to say, and then whenever I don't attack one of those groups and say they're the ultimate evil in the world or whatever, then I always get attacked for working for those groups when the establishment does not like me. Max Keiser, what's your comment on the Jewish banker issue?
Whenever I hear this, my competitive streak gets rallied, if you will, because when I was working on Wall Street, I was working for the other guys. I'm an Episcopalian, and I was working for Payne Weber, and then you've got J.P. Morgan and Morgan Stanley, and these are the white shoe firms, that Salenti talks about all the time. The white shoe
boys.
That's right. Now, these are the Protestants on Wall Street, and it's very competitive with the Jews on Wall Street, Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, et cetera. And it falls along these lines. And I was always playing for the Protestants. And you look at Geithner, Bernanke, Paulson. These are not Jewish guys. These are white shoe Protestant
I know,
guys.
but they say they are, though. People say I'm Jewish. People say I'm also a commander of the Vatican Supreme Warlock Army, but and a reptoid. But
people say that in using it as, let's say, an epithet. But what I'm saying is that there is actually competitive divisions there where it does fall along these religious.
Oh, listen, the ADL was set up because Jewish narcotics traffickers, this is on record, were getting in trouble in New York, and it got set up as an attack group. I'm against the Jewish mafia, and it's certainly there. But what happens is when you criticize anything going on in the government, they then say you're attacking Jewish people, or they say, or if you attack the Jewish mafia, they say you are. I'm just covering issues, and then people can make their own decision. I think when we make this racial or religious, that's what the globalists want, to then get us all fighting with each other, instead of let's just get rid of the corrupt system. If Warlock Vatican cablers are running it, good. Let's kick them out of there. I want to get rid of this corrupt system instead of jumping into the game the globalists want to play of making it a racial or religious issue. Max, what do you say to that?
Well, here's one of the biggest goyim club in the world is the CIA. I mean, the CIA is all about Protestant power. This is why it was the basis of creating the CIA was we need to keep the power in the northeast Ivy League corridors. This is all, it's a discriminatory almost to this.
They also recruit a lot of Mormons into there. Max, we are just out of time, my friend, and I really appreciate you joining me. I appreciate the last caller and everybody else, Pastor in Ohio and so many others. I might go into overdrive and take your calls, Tracy and others, but I've got to read this 1984 quote, and when we come back, I keep promising to do it and then never doing it. I don't even know if 5 minutes will properly do it. But Max Keiser, thanks for joining us, buddy.
Anytime.
All right, we will be back with the final segment of the main radio show. And then I'll be back tonight, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Mountain, PrisonPlanet.tv, or InfoWarsNews.com. And if you support free speech in this message and want to take the globalist on to build the next level network, become a PrisonPlanet.tv subscriber today. You don't need me to tell you that humanity is in a deep crisis. Everyone can feel it. We know a tectonic struggle is now taking place between the forces of freedom and those who love darkness, bondage, and enslavement. Yes, my friends, evil is rising. But take heart. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Recently, New World Order operative Hillary Clinton admitted they're losing the info war.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
The globalists are scared. They've overreached. The future of the info war is in your hands. Join PrisonPlanet.tv. Download the thousands of special video reports, ebooks, and more, and get them out to everyone you know. Continue to spread the word about the broadcast on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and every other globalist propaganda platform. We are going to use their system against them. The info war now goes into high gear.